Alright, thanks for tuning in. This is my second time recording the video. The first time we had some unexpected error that I didn't see to the end, so that's fucking great. So I'm recording again for the second time. Uh, it's gonna be hard to give the same fucking enthusiasm I did the first time, but look, let's give it a fucking go anyway. Alright, so today I'm going to preview UFC Fight Night Cejudo vs Song, which takes place in Seattle, giving you my picks and predictions on who wins and how. We'll be starting with the prelims, moving on to the main card, and ending with the main event. Alright, let's get straight into it. We have Modestos Bukauskas versus Rafael Secura, fighting at light heavyweight, which is 205 pounds. These guys are at the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to their UFC careers. Modestos is actually on his second run in the UFC after previously leaving on the back of 3 losses. He's sporting a 13-4-4 record. That's while in the UFC. He's lost to the likes of some guys like Jimmy Crute and Khalil Roundtree, so they're not the worst losses to have if you are going to lose to someone. He then, after this, went back to Cage Warriors, won 2 in a row, and then returned to the UFC. Since then, he's gone 3-4 with a win over Tyson Pedro, which is a solid win amongst others. And he's on the back of a win over Marcin Pracino at UFC 304. He's had a mixed career so far, and at the age of 31, it's now or never if this guy's going to be making any sort of run in the division. He does have some talent, however, particularly on the feet. He can KO you or TKO you if you're caught lacking, so, it's not a fight where there's no threat at all for Rafael Secura, but, we'll move on to Rafael. So, Rafael's coming into this, his second fight in the UFC, boasting an MMA record of 11-1. His only loss being his UFC debut against Ivo Aslan, who we'll talk about later on up the card. So in this fight, he was TKO'd in 51 seconds in the first round. So a rough debut for Rafael, but better early in your career than late. We've seen things like this happen before, even to the great Islam Makhachev. I think it happened in his, third or fourth fight, something like that. Early on, he got KO'd, and look where he is. I'm not saying he's going to be Islam, but it doesn't mean he's a nobody. It doesn't mean his career's going to be shit either. So look, despite the loss, I think Rafael is quite a skilled striker. He's won all but 2 of his fights via KO, TKO, and although he is the older, less experienced fighter, he also has much less wear and tear in his body. So who wins? I'm going to go with Rafael Secura to win this one via second round TKO. We move on to Nasultan Ruziboev versus Eric Mokaniko, fighting at 185 pounds, the middleweight division. Ruziboev is 31 years old with a record of 34-9, going 2-1 in the UFC so far. He's by far the more experienced fighter, with Mokaniko being 34 years old with a record of 9-2, who's making his UFC debut. Looking into their careers and styles, Ruziboev has only ever lost by decision in all but one fight, in which he lost by TKO early on in his career, which was over 10 years ago. Since then, he's shown an ability to win via submission, decision, and KO. So he can win it anywhere, anyway, really. He can take it just about wherever he wants. He's faced good competition since joining the UFC, having fought Bruno Ferreira, Cedric Dumas, and Joachim Buckley, having beat Ferreira and Dumas via KO, and he did lose to Buckley by decision, but we've seen Buckley go on and move up the rankings, having beat Colby Covington recently, so once again, not too bad a loss. So who do I think wins? From the little I've seen of these two guys, Ruziboev appears to be the much better, more experienced and younger fighter of the two. From what I've seen of Mokaniko, I've not been impressed. He looks laboured when he throws punches, looks like he's thinking, he's hesitant. He doesn't look smooth and fluid. I don't think he's UFC caliber, and I'm picking Ruziboev to win via first round KO or TKO. Alright, we move on. Catchweight bout between Nikolai Veretennikov versus Austin Vanderfoot, also known as Mr. Van Zandt. Catchweight bouts, they usually fight at 185 pounds, I believe Austin usually fights at. Although this one might be at 170. I believe this one's at 170, or is supposed to be at 170. Anyway, look, both well into their MMA careers, Vanderfoot being 34 years old and Nikolai 35. Sporting records of 12-2 for Vanderfoot and 12-5 for Nikolai. respectively. However, in terms of quality of opponents faced, Vanderford is well ahead, having fought for the Bellator middleweight world title against Gegard Mousasi. He did ultimately lose in the first round. He was undefeated up until that point on an 11-0 win streak. But once again, man, like, losing to Gegard Mousasi, there's nothing wrong with that. For all the OG fans, like, you'll remember Gegard, he was a killer. Man, when he was going around the middleweight division, like, he was beating the best of the best. He actually left the promotion on a 5-fight win streak, having just beat Prime Weidman, which is, Weidman, fucking that's a good win back in the day. Not many fighters leave the UFC, in their prime. Usually they're a bit over the hill or whatnot, or they're up and coming, or they've had a few losses. But this guy, when he was at his peak and looking like, he was going to be champ one day, he left and he found success in Bellator. So this dude, just for those who don't know, he's got wins over Weidman, OSP, Dan Henderson, Thiago Santos, TOT Vitor, Uriah Hall, Rory McDonald, and Lyoto Machida, amongst others. So the man is no joke. And yeah, Vanderford, he got kind of fucked up by him in the first round, but it is what it is. Nikolai, however, has not fought anywhere near the same level of competition as Vanderford. He is slightly older. He also has one more loss. A lot of the losses were early on in his career. However, I do believe Nikolai is the more capable and dangerous striker of the two. He's got a sniper style, sort of looking for openings and then sort of just boom popping you. But he does have power in it. He's got long arms. He's powerful with those straights. He's quick. He does lack head movement, and Vanderford can throw some shots from tricky angles. He's sort of got a Chandler-esque style on the feet, but without the insane explosiveness and power. And with maybe a little bit more technique and jab. Not too much more. He's nothing crazy, but just a little bit more on there. He's also got some good grappling. Some fairly good grappling. He can take you down. He's pretty strong. Got some submission ability in there. I think if it stays on the feet, I'd probably give it to Nikolai. But we haven't seen too much of him. He hasn't been tested too much. And Austin Vanderford, most interesting thing about him is his wife, Paige Van Zandt, who I think a lot of people were fans of. Not for her fight style, but for her other attributes, if you know what I'm saying. But look, Austin, he's a solid fighter. I don't think he's ever going to be ranked in the UFC, or if he is, he'll be down the bottom end of the rankings. Although, middleweight, welterweight, he could be. He might be like somewhere between 12 and 15, something like that. I doubt it, but look, in terms of who wins this fight, I'm going to go with Vanderford to win via submission late in the second or third round. Nikolai I can see also getting the KO somewhere in there, but I think it's more likely I'm going to go Austin Vanderford with the submission. We move on to Ricky Simon versus Javid Bazarat, fighting at bantamweight. Yeah, so these guys look two very different fighters. Simon more of a stocky, plotty, tanky power puncher. Got some takedowns in there. Javid, he's a longer, more mobile point fighter sort of style. He can throw just about anything at you. He's quick. He's not going to put a lot of power behind it, but he can piece you up. Javid's only in his second fight in the UFC, with Simon being in his 14th, so a world of difference in terms of experience and competition faced. However, Javid is a younger, fresher fighter. He looks far more technical of the two, and with his long-rangey style versus Simon's plotty, fucking power-punching style, I think it's a hard fight for Simon. So look, I'm going to pick Javid to win via UD. I think he's too fast, too long, too mobile. He's going to pick Ricky apart and cruise to a UD. Up next we have Mansour Abdul Malik versus Nick Klein, fighting at middleweight. Both guys with 7 fights in their MMA career, Mansour being 7-0, Klein being 6-1. This fight being Mansour's second fight in the UFC and Klein's first. Very different styles. Klein focusing more on submissions and Mansour more on KOs. He's actually won all of his fights except one via KO. There's not much tape of either guy to go over. They both fought on the Dana White Contender Series, both finishing their fights. I'm not going to waste too much time with this one, so without much to go off, Mansour appears to be the better athlete. Both guys are untested, so it really is a pick 'em fight, but considering the loss by TKO on Klein's record and Mansour's almost inevitable ability to find a KO so far, I'm going to choose Mansour to win via first round TKO or maybe early to mid second round. We continue. Andre Fili versus Melquizael Costa. We're just going to call him Mel Costa. Fighting at featherweight. Most of you probably know Andre Fili. He's been around the game a long time now. At least 10 years, I think, even more than that. If you don't know him, you've probably heard the name. He's been around the featherweight division fighting really the best of the best. Well, not the best of the best, but he's fought some of the best in the division. Hasn't always beat them, but, you know, he's got some nice wins in there too. He's basically a 500 fighter, going just over 50-50 so far in his UFC career. He's got a record of 22 fights, 11 wins, 10 losses, and 1 no contest. So about as close to 50-50 as you can go without being 50-50. Costa, on the other hand, is 2-2 in his UFC career so far. This will be his 5th fight in the UFC. I haven't seen Costa fight before, but he hasn't fought anywhere near the level of competition Fili has, yet he's 2-2 so far on a 1-fight win streak up against Fili, who's fought, you know, guys like Kelvin Cater, Max Holloway, Dan Ige, Lucas Almeida, Rodriguez, and he's coming off the win over Cub Swanson. That's still a quality win to have, even in 2025. So look, a lot of people, you know, they go with the young fella, the young up-and-comer, but he's 2-2 against not that good competition. I'm not going to say anything about the guy's looks. I'm going to go with Andre Fili for this one. I think we know what we're going to get out of Fili. As Lucas Tracy would say, he's one of these crafty vets, man. And I think he'll show that and he'll get the job done via dominant UD. Up the card, we have Ion Cutelaba versus Ivo Aslan, fighting at light heavyweight, 205 pounds. So I mentioned Ivo earlier on in the card, and I'll tell you why in just a sec. So I've really been looking forward to this fight. I'm a fan of Cutelaba. We know he's always going to bring it. The man never really has boring fights. He doesn't have the best record since joining the UFC, but you know, he's got some solid skills and some solid wins in there. He should not be slept on. Having said that, he's up against Ivo Aslan, who is on a tear at the moment. He's 14-1 so far in his career. He's on a 6-fight win streak, including 2 wins in the UFC, with every single one of those 14 wins coming by KO or TKO. This is compared to Cutelaba, who's 18-10 with 17 fights in the UFC, on a 1-fight win streak and being 3-7 in his last 10 fights. Cutelaba is well rounded. He can grapple, he can strike. He's a solid test for an up and comer, but Ivo looks to be every bit a star. And look, he's carried everyone 14-0. Ion is there to be hit. He's not easy, but he can be knocked out. He can be wobbled. This guy, he's gonna have the confidence. He's young. He's quality. He's gonna be in there. He's gonna know he can KO Ion. It could be his downfall potentially, but I don't think it will be. I'm going to pick Ivo to win via late first round TKO. Sorry, Ion. Catch you later, brother. We move on to the main card, and first off we have Alonzo Menifield fighting Julius Walker at light heavyweight. I'm going to be real. I have no fucking idea why this card is on the main card. This fight's on the main card. You could have easily chose Ion Cutelaba versus Ivo, Andre Fili even, Ricky Simon versus David Bazarat. Like, any of those fights would do better than this. No one knows who the fuck Julius Walker is. Alonzo Menifield's alright, but like, he's not really a name. Fili's more of a name. I'd argue Cutelaba's more of a name. Like, people who have seen Ivo would be more excited with his KOs. Like, this card's good overall for a fight night, and it could be much worse. So look, I'm not going to complain too much, but still, I don't know why the fuck they picked this fight. Anyway, look, there's literally no tape on Julius Walker that I've been able to find. I know nothing about him, so I can go off his Alonzo Menifield. He's shown he has some skills with solid wins over guys like Jimmy Crute, Paul Craig, and Dustin Jacoby. However, he's coming off the back of losses to Carlos Olberg and Azamat Murzakanov. Yeah. Both via KO. With basically nothing to go off in comparing the two. It's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to side with the young up-and-comer, as the UFC generally will only put a guy like this on debut against a vet of Menifield's caliber if they think he can beat him. Like, if you're looking back to even just UFC Sydney, Who was that guy? I can't remember his name, but he fought Justin Tuffer, and you know, he was basically unknown, coming in, big young guy on debut, and he just fucking TKO'd or KO'd Tafa with a big elbow. I had a feeling that fight too, you know. I think I went Tafa because he had a good history against long-rangey fighters. But I did say I think the UFC are picking him for a reason. I don't think they're going to want to bring a young guy in and get him KO'd straight away, so they must be confident in him winning. And I think that's where I'm going to go again. I think that if they're bringing in this guy to fight Alonso, they're not looking to build Alonso up. He's had his ups and downs. He's not a superstar in the making. Julius Walker is a young guy they could build up. So they must be confident in his ability. I think, unless it's just the only guy they could get, he could have been a late dropout. I can't remember. A late pickup. But I'm going to go with Julius Walker. I believe the UFC must have some background info on him and some faith in his ability to win. I don't know how the fuck he's going to win. I'm just going to say TKO. Fuck it. Moving on the card. That's a pick and one. You pick whoever the fuck you want. Don't blame me if you lose or lose your money. Up the card, we move on to featherweight between Gene Silva and Melsik Baghdasaryan. Not how you say it. I don't know how the fuck you say it. We're going to call him Melsik. So look, maybe I'm overlooking Melsik in this one, but the way I see it, all signs point to a Gene Silva win. Gene Silva's 5 years younger, 28 years old. He's on an 11-fight win streak with wins over the likes of Drew Dober and Charles Jourdain in his first three UFC fights. Melsik is 33 with an 8-2 record on the back of one win. Look, based on all those factors and the fact that Gene Silva just looks like he's going to be a contender, I think I might have even said it before in one of his fights against Dober. I'm pretty sure I picked him based on the same fact. Like, he looks good. He looks like he's going to be a contender. He's just slick, man. He is. I'm just going to pick him to win via TKO late in the fight or a dominant UD. I think he's going to be way too good for Melsik. Moving on, we have Rob Font and Gene Matsumoto fighting catchweight. I believe they should be fighting at 135. Don't know why it's a catchweight. Whatever the fuck. Anyway, these fighters could not be more different. We have a 37-year-old UFC ball in old Rob Font who loves to box, and he's fought and beat some of the best fighters in the division. He's up against a young calf in 25-year-old Gene Matsumoto. And he appears to be a bit of a submission specialist, but he's also got a fair few decisions on his record. Honestly, looking at the two, it is hard to go past Font for this one with his experience and his crisp boxing. If he shows up and has the right sort of opponent, man, he can put together some combinations, some beautiful boxing. He doesn't have that much power in his hands, but I think if the fight stays standing, he probably gets a decision win or maybe like a doctor's stoppage, something like that. I do, however, think the young, fresh lad who's 16-0 coming into this with a world of confidence, he's going to take it to the ground, get it there somehow, and come away with a second-round submission. I could eat my words here. Something tells me that the old vet in Rob Font's going to show him his levels, send him back to maybe give him a break and maybe send him back to work on some things. But fuck, I'm still going with Gene. Gene to win via second round submission. We move on to alright, middleweight bout between Brendan Allen and Anthony Hernandez. Two experienced fighters, well-known fighters in Allen and Hernandez, both at similar stages of their career, both having good wins over some decent opponents. Both can find a submission. In particular, Brendan Allen, he's got 5 of his last 7 wins coming via submission. Hernandez also has quite a few subs over his career, but more recently he's been able to mix in some TKOs in there as well. On paper, these guys are pretty evenly matched. I'd have to give the submission and grappling edge to Allen, and probably the striking edge to Hernandez, but they're both roughly similar in each area, I'd say. There's not too much to get into, like, apart from that. I'm going to just go with, in terms of winning, I'm going to pick with Hernandez to win. Anthony Hernandez, I think he'll probably be able to keep it standing, or if they do get to the ground, he'll be able to counteract anything Allen does, any submissions, and eventually either survive and make it to the next round or get out of it. And then on the feet, I think he's going to be too good for Allen. Allen's striking's alright, but I think Hernandez will be too good for him, and I can see him winning via early third round TKO. So Anthony Hernandez, early third round TKO. That's my pick. We move on to the main event of the evening. Fighting at the dwarf weight division. Fighting at bantamweight. Geez, Henry Cejudo's a fucking midget. The dude's like 5'4". Um, so he makes like little people look fucking big, bro. But whatever. Henry Cejudo's alright. I actually don't mind Henry Cejudo. And look, coming into this fight with an all-time great in Henry Cejudo up against a young contender in Song, both coming off losses. Cejudo's got back-to-back losses to Sterling and Marab. Marab's the current champion of the division. Sterling, a recent champion. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Both quite a bit bigger than Cejudo. Cejudo, you know, still look good out there, but he didn't look like the Cejudo that was one of the talking about being one of the best combat athletes or whatever at the time. Song has lost to Peter Yan, which if you've seen me talk about Peter Yan or you know me, you know I rate Peter Yan or Peter Yan, if you want to say it properly, as one of the most skilled UFC fighters, or one of the most skilled fighters in UFC and MMA history. This dude, he's an absolute animal. Nothing wrong in losing to Yan. So yeah, not too bad for Song. Look, ranked 7th and 8th shows they're roughly, this is a great matchup. If this was prime for prime, however, and both are the same size, I'd be picking Cejudo all day. I think skill-wise he's better. However, we do have to live in reality, and the reality is Cejudo's 38, Song's 27, and Cejudo, while still looking good and fighting the top of the division, does appear to have lost a step. He's also up against a far larger fighter in Song, and I think Song's just gonna, Cejudo probably still be the faster fighter, more technical, but Song's gonna just be too powerful. He's not gonna be able to hold him down. He on the feet, he might land two to every Song's one hit, but Song's gonna be hitting harder. And I think this is gonna be too much for Cejudo. He's either gonna get a UD win to Song, or it's gonna be a TKO in there. I can't predict when. I'm not sure. It's very hard to predict. You just don't know what version you're gonna get. Maybe Cejudo's aged horribly all of a sudden. Who knows? But yeah, I think I'm pretty confident in Song winning this one. So, look, anyway, that completes the UFC Fight Night Seattle card. Those are my picks and predictions. Comment down below. I do want to hear your thoughts and have a discussion. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I haven't had any subscribers despite getting some pretty solid views in a while. If I'm, spreading out some bullshit, let me know. I want to have a chat about it. But it'd be good to fucking get some subscribes on there. I ain't begging for them, but fuck, it'd be good. But anyway, look, I'm going to keep posting this shit no matter what. Appreciate anyone who watched, whether you watch for 5 minutes or 30 minutes. And anyway, I'll catch you next time, lads. Have a good one.